3 weeks after my grandmother passed away, I got a voicemail from her old phone number. The number had been disconnected for months. I almost didn't listen to it. I wish I never had, because now I get one every year, on the same date, and each one knows something new about me that I've never told anyone. My grandmother died in early spring after a long illness, and like most families, we handled the practical aftermath slowly, closing accounts, canceling subscriptions, disconnecting her old phone line about a month after the funeral, once we were sure nothing important was still tied to it. 3 weeks after that disconnection, I got a voicemail notification from her number. I remember staring at my phone for a long time before playing it, half convinced it was some delayed carrier glitch, a message that had simply taken weeks to route through before finally arriving. The first voicemail. The message was 11 seconds long. It was her voice, unmistakably, warm and familiar, saying only, "I still think about the blue house. Do you?" I sat with that for a long time. The blue house was a place from my childhood, a rental we'd lived in briefly when I was maybe 5 years old, a memory so small and specific I was fairly certain I'd never mentioned it to anyone as an adult, let alone discussed it with my grandmother in the final months of her illness. I called the number back immediately. It rang twice, then gave the standard disconnected number message, flat and automated, exactly as I'd expected from an account that had been closed for weeks. I told myself it was some strange voicemail server error, an old message finally processing after a long delay, nothing more. A year later. I mostly forgot about it. Grief does strange things to memory, and eventually the voicemail became just another odd detail I filed away without fully examining. Almost exactly 1 year later, on the anniversary of the call, I received another voicemail from the same disconnected number. This one was longer, maybe 20 seconds, and this time she mentioned something more specific, a nickname my father used to call me as a small child, one I hadn't heard spoken aloud since he passed away years before my grandmother did. She said it gently, almost teasingly, the way she used to when I was young, followed by, "He still uses it too, you know. Just not out loud anymore." I didn't sleep at all that night. I called the number back 3 separate times. Each time, the same automated disconnection message played, flat and identical, giving no indication that anything had ever actually called me from that line. Trying to explain it. I brought it up carefully with my mother, expecting her to dismiss it as my imagination or grief playing tricks on me. Instead, she went pale and admitted, quietly, that she'd received something similar exactly 1 year after her own mother, my other grandmother, had passed away decades earlier. She said she'd never told anyone, assuming it was a one-time coincidence, some final signal from a phone company processing an old account. She said the message she'd received had also referenced something deeply personal, something she'd never shared with a living soul, and that she'd never received another one after that single occurrence. I asked her what it said. She wouldn't tell me exactly, only that it convinced her, permanently, never to disconnect a loved one's phone number again if she could possibly help it, a superstition I hadn't understood until now. The 3rd year. I braced myself for the anniversary the following year, unsure whether to expect anything at all, half hoping the previous 2 calls really had been some unexplainable glitch that wouldn't repeat a 3rd time. The voicemail came exactly on schedule, this time nearly a full minute long. My grandmother's voice, calm and clear as always, described a conversation I'd had privately with a therapist just 2 months earlier, details about my anxiety, about a specific fear I hadn't shared with any family member, spoken back to me in her familiar tone as though she'd been sitting quietly in the room the entire session. She ended the message differently this time. Instead of a gentle observation, she said, plainly, "You don't have to be afraid of forgetting me. I'm the one keeping track now." I didn't call the number back that year. I couldn't bring myself to hear the automated disconnection message again, unable to shake the growing sense that whatever was leaving these messages didn't need an active phone line to reach me at all. The number itself seemed almost incidental, a formality rather than an actual requirement. What I've learned. I did some research after that third call, mostly out of desperation for some rational explanation. I found scattered forum posts and old articles describing similar experiences, voicemails or texts arriving from disconnected numbers belonging to deceased relatives, always on meaningful anniversaries, always containing information the deceased person couldn't possibly have known while alive. Nobody in these accounts seemed to agree on why it happened, or what it meant, only that it seemed to happen more often to people who had been especially close to the person who passed, and that it almost always continued for exactly as long as the surviving relative kept the original number reachable in any form, even just saved as a contact, even disconnected, even years after any actual service had ended. I still have my grandmother's number saved in my phone. I've thought about deleting it many times, wondering if that might finally stop the calls. I haven't done it yet, and if I'm honest with myself, I don't think I actually want to. It's almost time for this year's anniversary again. I don't know what she'll say this time, or what she'll know about me that I haven't told anyone. Some small part of me, the part that still misses her more than I usually let myself admit, is actually looking forward to hearing her voice again, regardless of how impossible that voice technically is. If someone you loved passes away, and you receive something impossible afterward, a call, a message, anything from a number that shouldn't work anymore, I won't tell you to be afraid of it. I've stopped being afraid of mine. I've just learned not to ask questions I'm not fully ready to hear the answers to.